Hey, this is Jimmy Brown, and I'm going to show you how to play AC/DC's Thunderstruck, that hit song from their 1991 album, The Razor's Edge. Before we begin, you're going to want to get the right gear, preferably a Gibson SG, which is what Angus Young plays, or any humbucker-equipped guitar, bridge position pickup on, a good amount of gain on the amp, preferably you want to crank it, get a good tube amp and crank it to get some of that output tube distortion. I'm using a power attenuator right now to keep things down to a moderate roar. But that's about it. Let's go. First up is the song's instantly recognizable intro, played by Angus Young. Here's the same part played slowly. So what Angus is basically doing here is he's playing this melody against an open B string pedal tone. So he starts out on a 16th note, the last 16th note before the downbeat. And his first note is an upstroke, and then from that point on, it's down, up, down, up. So it's up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So you have a melody within a line. You have those, think of those eighth notes within the 16th note line. Bump, 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 bump. Try to keep the picking hand relaxed. Maybe rest your palm on the lower strings to keep them silent, because when you're playing with a lot of gain, sometimes you can get some sympathetic string vibration, which will make the part, not as clean as you would like it. The next part, which is called riff A in our transcription, this is a little trickier because you have to travel up and down the string. If you think of it as a melody within a melody, if you think of it as this. And then you're just adding an open B note in between each of those fretted notes. So you have. So you want to practice it slowly and steadily. It really helps to tap your foot, and it really helps to use a metronome, because on the recording you notice there's a drum beat going, and I find that helps tremendously. If you just try to play it a cappella without any rhythm, without tapping your foot or anything helping you, it's easy for that riff to get away from you and to lose your left-right hand coordination. So practice it slowly and gradually build up speed. You can start like this. Another thing I find helpful is when you're kind of toggling between these two notes, to avoid that kind of neuromuscular confusion, is to just use one finger, to go, as opposed to going, which you could do, but again, it's easy for this to get away from you with your coordination. So try both ways and see what works best for you. Okay, next up is Angus' brother Malcolm Young's rhythm part, which comes in bar 7 in our transcription. Okay, what Malcolm is doing, he's just playing this B5 chord. I've got the gain rolled back a little bit because his tone is generally a little cleaner, a little less overdriven than Angus's, and has more definition, which is good, appropriate for rhythm parts. So he's kind of alternating between and doing a little bit of bounce, a little bit of muting with the fret hand. It's a very syncopated rhythm. It's like a 16th note syncopation with a lot of upbeats. So slowly, it's like this. And you want to put definitely some palm muting going on, which helps with the definition and clarity. That part is really a key part of the song. It's really what helps drive the groove, and that kind of carries on throughout the verses and a lot of the song. For fun, let's hear what these two parts sound like together. And I'm listening the aid of my man Paul Riario here off camera is going to play that part I just showed you while I'm playing the main Angus riff. So here we go, it's guitars 1 and 2 together as heard during the verse of the song. There's another guitar, a guitar 3 part comes in with some big power chords in bar 13 in the transcription. I'll show you that now, along with the guitar 2 part, the Malcolm Young part, played by Paul. It's interesting to note on the recording that riff A, that bounce riff, continues throughout the verse. But if you see AC/DC play the song live, Angus just switches to these big power chords that I'm about to show you. This part is deceptively simple, or deceptively complicated, whatever the phrase is, because you're just playing 3 chords. You're playing B5, and then A5, E5, A5, E5. But you have a quick change in there. It's 2 16th notes. It's a... So actually, I would do the A5 chord with an upstroke. And then you got to scoot your index finger because you're going. Yeah, then the E5 chord with a downstroke. So it's all downstrokes. Next up is the chorus riff, which begins at bar 32, section E in our transcription. Okay, here it is played slowly. Again, it's deceptively difficult or simple, whatever, because you have a quick change, not as quick as you have to go between D5, which is big. It contains all the middle 4 strings. Then you got to go to E5. And then the most important thing is going from the E5 to the A5, because you have to choke that low E string to keep it from ringing. Otherwise, it'll sound sloppy, it'll ring. So I'll give you an example. I'll play it without muting the E string, and you'll hear it when I go to the A5 chord, it'll sound like this. See, that I don't want that. So you have to prevent that. The way to do that is with a very quick little bump of the palm of the picking hand. So you're going pretty much, I think, all downstrokes. Right there, before you hit the A. fact, just practice that. Just go. Bop, choke, A. Okay, so that's a subtle but important little point. Next up is the interlude section, beginning at section F in our transcription. This comes in right before the solo. And there's a simple part that goes over the two riffs that I've showed you previously, but it's worthy of showing here. So, and this will stop right before the solo. Next up is the first guitar solo. So first I'll show you the rhythm guitar part behind it, and then Paulie here will play that while I jam out the solo. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, I'm going to go through the solo slowly, phrase by phrase, and kind of give you some pointers on how to play it. So Angus starts out with a double stop. Okay, that's the first phrase. So, ring finger, you're playing out of this B minor pentatonic 7th position box. So. Then a bend. This is interesting. That's one of Angus's trademarks, and it's best performed up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Yeah, I mean, normally you would go down, up, on the downbeats you go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. But in this case, that would make for some very difficult inside picking because you have to go. It's easier to go up, down, down. That's outside picking, so it's more friendly. Each pick stroke puts you in the direction of where you want to go to the next string. Okay, then the next phrase. Now this is a sweep. This is very cool. Another signature Angus Young move. Bar 46. Again. So you have a bend, release, pull off, and then it's so you're doing an upstroke sweep, but with a pull off on the G string. So upstroke, pull off. There's a couple different ways you can get the vibrato. It's interesting. You can either pull the string down or push it up. Each way has its own speed and feel, and a lot of it is up to you. I think in this case, you might be doing it that way. Actually, you might be pulling it. See, I'm pulling it in towards the palm. It's called a bee sting vibrato. It's fast and furious. The next phrase, he jumps up to this position. It's a 14th position, but he bends up to the B. That's the last phrase of the solo. It's a B minor pentatonic. Make sure all these bends, the ring finger bends, are supported by the middle finger, at least, or better yet, middle and the index. Get the thumb around here and use some leverage. See how I'm using 2 or 3 fingers to bend the string. Now this one, the index finger is all on its own. That's pretty hard because you don't have any fingers behind or in front of your index finger to help it. You could, if you want, you could just shift down and do it with your ring finger, but you're shifting positions, and more than likely you're gonna probably miss it half the time. So if you're using like 10s or lighter, it shouldn't be a problem. And Anything with 11s or higher, you're asking for a fight here. And he gets off it real quick, so it's worth the effort. Again, it's a push vibrato, push bend, and a quick slide off. Next up is a breakdown section right after the solo, and I'm going to have Paul accompany me on just the chords, and I'll play the little fill that occurs in between. The power chords don't need any explanation, right? It's just dun, 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 dun. If you want, you can have one guitar just play, and the other guy play the thing, or you can jump back and forth like I was doing. It's not that hard. That's probably the hardest part, because you have less than a half a beat to get there, but it's doable with a little bit of practice. The lick is pretty stock, minor pentatonic. Okay, for the bend, I would go that way. I mean, you could go. That sounds a little too nervous to me. Push bend, you get it's the right wavering and the right speed. And then a slight bend and a pull off. The last two times, he plays double stops. Okay, so now you're borrowing the index finger. You're basically adding a harmony note. So instead of going, sounds kind of cool. We have major thirds. You could do this two ways. You could lay the ring finger flat, or you could fret the notes individually with the fingertips of your ring and pinky fingers. Because that way you get a little more grip. Or and it ends like that. There's one last new riff in the song, and it occurs right after the last chorus and before the outro solo. And it goes like this. Pretty simple stuff. It's a B5 chord and an E5 chord with a little melodic fill or walk up. So it's 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. It's amazing. A little bit of melody to chords suddenly makes it sound like a melodic part. So it's a cool part. And last but not least, we come to the outro guitar solo, which is played over the chorus riff. Okay, I'll walk you through this solo phrase by phrase, nice and slow. Here's the first phrase. Okay, it's a B minor pentatonic. He does a little grace note pull off. And then this kind of vibrato where you're pulling it down. Actually, the picking strokes it's down, up, down, up, down. Make sure that vibrato is fast, because it's like you go out on a limb when you do a vibrato, and if you don't commit fully, you sound like shy, but if you go, yeah. Next phrase, beginning in bar 65. Okay, here he's playing out of what's called B.B. King's blues box. Okay, he's bending the D note here, and he's overbending it, 1.5 steps. And then releases it. And then this is a pre-bend and release, so also called a reverse bend. Pull off. And then another fast, furious vibrato. This one, you kind of have to push it because you don't have much room here. I mean, you could go like that, but to me, that sounds, you know. Next lick, bar 67. Okay, we have another overbend, 1.5 step bend. Again, these ring finger bends definitely support it with the middle finger and maybe the index finger if you can get it behind it. You get the thumb here, and you're going to push it. So that's your target note. And then a vibrato off of an unbent note. Okay, bar 69. Okay, these are oblique bends. You're bending this E note up to F sharp, and then you're catching the A up top with the pinky. Now this is interesting. He does this thing where he's going between a half step and a whole step. Well, then he starts hitting them together, and it creates like a nice bite. You know, at the end of bar 70. Okay, bar 72. Pretty much more the same. And then bar 75, and it just scoots way up to the high B minor pentatonic box. And he does this. Okay, so it's bending at the 22nd fret. Reinforced bend, you're using 2 or 3 fingers. Pull off to the 19th fret. And then you shake it. That's, for me, I think that's the king of all vibratos, you know, to bend a note and then shake it, because you can dip below the pitch. You know, if you just bend this note, you have nowhere to go but above the note, right? So, and then he ends that phrase with a high bend on a high E string. So he's doing this pentatonic thing. And he catches this little oblique bend, shakes it, slides off. And then the song ends, you know. They slow down there for a dramatic effect and end on a nice B5 power chord. So that's it. Hope you got something out of this lesson, and enjoy. See you next time.